When I was watching this movie, just right off the bat, I could just tell. I'm like, right off the bat, I'm going, man, we're already here. We are getting so close to Sony Marvel territory. It got so close. Let's start off, of course, with Captain America: Brave New World. Brave New World. Is it a Brave New World? Did it feel like a Brave New World? Okay. And again, spoilers, guys. We're not holding back tonight. It's a spoiler discussion. You've been warned. If you haven't seen it, turn it off. Turn the stream off. This movie, the more I was thinking about it, the more I was even driving home. You saw my first reaction. I was not excited for it. I already knew that what we were in store for. You could just tell. Because, you're hearing about reshoots. This movie was supposed to come out last year. And just everything that's been happening when it comes to the MCU, it just seems like Feige and crew just don't have a super clear vision of what they want to do. It's just the MCU. I mean, that's why I keep on saying 2025 is that year of hey, July is so pivotal when it comes to three big franchises. You got, Superman, DCU trying to get their footing. You got Jurassic World, that whole franchise trying to be reignited. And then, of course, Fantastic Four, let's face it, Fantastic Four is going to be the Marvel Studios movie that is going to help reinvigorate, help when it comes to, Captain America: Brave New World. But then, of course, you have Thunderbolts, which, to be honest, could be just a fun movie. Thunderbolts will most likely be better than Brave New World. That's for sure. When I was watching this movie, just right off the bat, I could just tell. I'm right off the bat, I'm going, man, we're already here. We are getting so close to Sony Marvel territory. It got so close to that, where things were just edited so quickly. Things were choppy. Things were just right off the bat where you're just going, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. Like I said, I had problems with the score because the score was just it sounded like they just put generic military score behind it in a lot of spots. And I'm like, God damn, man. You could just see that this movie, they just didn't know what they wanted to do with this movie. There just wasn't a clear vision for this movie. Anybody that has watched it, again, spoilers, did they not feel like there was anything? Seriously, it just felt like when they were referencing Incredible Hulk, it just was oh yeah. As much as I love Incredible Hulk, it just didn't feel it didn't. Mainly because, I think one of the reasons why, and may he rest in peace, is William Hurt is not Thaddeus Ross. And yeah, they bring in Harrison Ford, and I get it, guys. It's Harrison Ford, but the motherfucker phoned it in. They just were hey, let's get Harrison Ford. But it was just a whole different character. It was Harrison Ford. It was just Harrison Ford being Harrison Ford. Yeah, I get it. It was cool. It's yeah, Harrison Ford's gonna be playing Thaddeus Ross, and we're gonna get the Red Hulk, sure. But it's just, to me, I was it just didn't work. Just didn't work for me. And then what they do too, of course, is when it comes to Incredible Hulk stuff, guess who's back? Guess who comes back? Liv Tyler comes back as Betty Ross. But even that didn't feel like anything. That should have been a cool thing where she just shows up. Oh my God, Betty's back. It's been since 2008 and there she is. And when she shows up, I didn't feel anything. Nothing. There's nothing there. Obviously, he wanted to reconnect with her. It just didn't work. You literally hear her on the phone, and it's okay, so she's coming back. And you guys didn't even do a good job of trying to get her back. And then when she shows up back at the end, it just didn't work. They brought Liv Tyler back for this. And then Anthony Mackie, I know he's supposed to be leading the new Avengers, but I don't know. He didn't give me leading man quality. It just didn't. I don't know. I think the only scene that I really thought was oh, this part, yeah, there's some things peppered through that were cool, but the scene where, of course, when they're in the Indian Ocean, which they finally, we're finally referencing the Eternals, that whole sequence was pretty cool. I'll give it that. It felt cheap for this movie. And you have somebody Giancarlo Esposito as a villain, and he just felt underused. And then, of course, don't even get me started with that post-credit scene. It was like, hey, we have to have something, so let's have the leader talk about, are you ready to take on people from other worlds? We already know there's a multiverse. Absolutely fucking useless. It was tiptoeing. It was getting to the point of like Sony levels. There was like not even like a moment, like, you know how MCU tries to, inject the humor. The humor felt like it wasn't even there. Like, the script was just, it just wasn't good. And see, the main issue I have, if you enjoyed the movie, by all means, fine, perfectly fine, cool. I'm not going to say you're wrong. I know that's usually the way that things are now. That people just, you post your review, and then all of a sudden you get a bunch of chuckleheads underneath your, in your mentions saying all this kind of stuff. And in your comments saying you're wrong, or you're paid for, or you're a plant. We've seen this too many times, and the fact that this is still happening, where that they were changing things behind the scenes, is there's an article that came out apparently from a crew. Then the Vulture talked with a crew member about working on this movie and revealed a bunch of things that we keep on hearing when it comes to this stuff. And the fact of the matter is the fact that this stuff is continuing to happen, when they're constantly changing the script, they're changing the story, they're changing a bunch of things, they're doing all this stuff, and putting out an inferior product when you're the biggest studio in the world. That's the issue that I mainly have. Is, I'm not saying, it's not even the fact that it's like, obviously it's all subjective of like what is being told and what is being, talked about and stuff like that. But when you can clearly see that they had no idea what the hell they wanted to do with this movie and with this story, and it's choppy and it's weird, and you could just see the seams. You could see the seams and everything, and they just put it out because they have to. That's where you just go, what the fuck, man? It's just, I don't know. It just sucks, because it's got to get to a point. I'm hoping this is what happens with DC Studios. It's got to get to a point, and it sounds like that's what James Gunn's going for. It's like, and I was listening to somebody on a podcast recently talking about this, is when you have a story idea, when it finally clicks, when you finally reach that part of a story, no matter what it is, could be a small story that's going to be turned into a short film, or that's like 4 minutes long, or it could be a full-length movie, it could be a big blockbuster. You still have to have a story and a script that when the writer is like going, hey, I think we have it, it's finally clicking. I've had that myself when I've written stories. When you finally figure out that story, you finally figured out, you finally cracked it, you cracked the story, and then all of a sudden you just can't stop. You're like, oh my god, look at my fingers go. My fingers, they won't stop. I can't stop typing, guys. What's going on here? That needs to happen with these movies. It needs to start happening with these movies.